So let's talk about tinnitus. It's something that millions and millions of people deal with. But what if the advice we've always heard, to go find a quiet spot, is actually making things worse? We're about to look at a newer idea that completely flips that on its head. First things first, and this is probably the most important thing to hear. That ringing or that buzzing or hissing sound you notice when things get quiet, you are not imagining it. It is a very, very real thing. And trust me, you are not alone in this. Not by a long shot. Globally, it's estimated that over 740 million people experience it. I mean, that is a massive number. It just goes to show how incredibly common this is. So what is actually going on inside our brains to cause this? Where is that sound really coming from? Let's dig into that. So what exactly is tinnitus? Well, it's not a hallucination and it's not just anxiety. It's a real neurological signal. Your brain is basically perceiving a sound that isn't coming from the outside world. Think of it like a sound system that's getting just a little bit of feedback. That feedback loop is happening inside your own head. Okay, and this brings us to the real heart of the matter. We need to talk about the problem with silence and the completely counterintuitive reason why that ringing seems to get so much louder at the exact moments you want a little peace and quiet. I mean, it's the question pretty much everyone with tinnitus asks themselves, right? You lay down to go to sleep, or you just sit in a quiet room to relax, and bam, the sound just seems to crank itself up, and suddenly it's impossible to ignore. Why on earth does that happen? Well, here's a good way to think about it. Your brain has its own internal volume knob. So when you're in total silence, your brain isn't getting any auditory input, and it gets kind of bored. It starts searching for a signal, and in the process, it turns up the gain. And that's what makes that internal noise so much louder. But when you introduce just a gentle, steady background sound, you're giving the brain the input it's looking for. It doesn't need to crank its own volume anymore. And this is the key. The environment is everything. Because even if you find some little trick that makes it go away for a second, the moment your brain is back in silence, it just goes right back to its old habit of amplifying that internal sound. So if silence is actually part of the problem, what do we do? Well, it means we need a totally new way of thinking about this. We need to shift away from just trying to distract ourselves for a few seconds and move towards something more consistent. And I'm sure if you've looked this up online, you've seen these pop up everywhere, right? The finger drumming thing, all the different jaw massages, pressure point tricks. A lot of people try them, and yeah, sometimes they give you a little flash of quiet. But here's the fundamental difference. Those quick fixes are all about creating a brief distraction. The relief is temporary, and it never lasts. A continuous sound works on a totally different principle. It's not about distraction. It's about fundamentally changing the brain's environment so that it doesn't feel the need to amplify anything in the first place. That's how you get to lasting relief. And I really want to be crystal clear here. This is not about blasting white noise to drown out the ringing. The goal is not to mask it with something louder. No. The real key is having a steady, gentle, low-level sound that's just there, consistently, throughout the day. Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, but how do you actually put this into practice in your day-to-day life? Let's talk about what sound that stays with you really looks like. It's actually way simpler than you might think. It really just boils down to 3 simple steps. First, find a sound that you find pleasant, or at least neutral. Second, set the volume. You want it to be gentle, sitting just below the level of your tinnitus, not covering it up. And third, this is the most important part, you just let it play, all the time. And this piece of feedback right here just gets to the absolute heart of it. Our lives don't stop. We're on calls, we're in meetings, so your sound therapy shouldn't have to stop either. Having that consistent sound just playing in the background, even during a Zoom meeting, that's what makes this whole approach so different and so much more effective for a lot of people. And of course, any tool that's built on this idea has to be designed to support that consistency, right? It means the sound has to keep playing through phone calls and video meetings. It should have a sleep timer that gently fades out so it doesn't wake you up. And maybe most importantly, it's got to be super easy to use. No accounts, no signups, no barriers to just turning it on. All right, let's bring this all together. What is the one big idea you should walk away with? It's really all about reframing your entire relationship with sound and with silence. So if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. The goal here is not to fight a noise. It's not to cover it up or mask it. The real goal is to gently and consistently change your brain's relationship with silence itself. You're basically teaching it over time that it doesn't need to turn up its own volume. So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. Our first instinct is always to seek out silence when we want quiet. But when it comes to tinnitus, what if the real key to finding that inner peace, that quiet, isn't about taking sound away, but about adding the right kind of sound back in?